I lost my home at 3:11 in the morning. By 3:40 I was standing barefoot on the street, watching 7 years of my life burn. But the fire wasn't what destroyed me. It was what my mother said next. And a week later, I found out she'd already been paid for my loss. The smoke alarm started screaming at 3:11 a.m. Not chirping. Not beeping. Screaming. Lena Whitmore woke up choking before she ever opened her eyes. The air tasted wrong, sharp, metallic, burning her throat as if she'd swallowed chemicals instead of oxygen. Her lungs rejected it immediately. She bolted upright in bed, heart slamming against her ribs, panic detonating all at once. Smoke. Thick. Black. Everywhere. Her bedroom was already filling, the ceiling disappearing first, swallowed by a rolling darkness lit faintly orange from somewhere she couldn't see. Fire. Her brain tried to slow things down to analyze, but her body didn't wait for permission. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand and ran. Bare feet slapped against the hardwood as heat chased her down the hallway. The smoke pressed low now, forcing her to crouch as she fumbled for the door handle. When she yanked it open, the hallway outside was worse. A tunnel of smoke glowing from below like something alive. She slammed into the stairwell door with her shoulder. Pain exploded, but the door gave. 4 flights. She doesn't remember all of them. Only fragments. The metal railing burning her palm. The sound of people shouting below. The feeling of her lungs tearing themselves apart. When she burst onto the sidewalk, the winter air felt violent, like being slapped awake. She stumbled forward, coughing, gasping, half-blind. Behind her, flames poured from her 4th-floor window. Unit 4C. Her home. Someone wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. A firefighter knelt in front of her, his face grim beneath the helmet. "Ma'am," he said gently, "were you inside that unit?" She nodded. "I'm sorry," he continued, not looking away. "There's nothing we could save. Nothing. 7 years. Photographs she could never replace. Her college degree. The guitar her late mentor had given her. Every version of herself she'd built after leaving home. Gone." She sank onto the curb, clutching her phone like it could tether her to reality. The screen read 3:39 a.m. Her hands shook as she opened her contacts. "Mom." The call rang. And rang. 8 times before it was answered. "What?" her mother said, irritated, half asleep. "Do you know what time it is?" "Mom," Lena whispered, voice breaking. "There was a fire. My apartment burned down. I don't have anywhere to go." Silence. Then a sigh. "That's unfortunate," her mother said flatly. "Unfortunate." Lena stared at the burning building across the street. In the background, a man's voice muttered something. The phone shifted. "This isn't our problem," her stepfather said. "You're an adult. Be more careful." The line went dead. And that was the moment Lena realized. The fire wasn't the worst thing that would happen to her. Lena didn't sleep. Not really. Her body lay on Ethan's couch, wrapped in a borrowed hoodie that smelled like laundry detergent and safety, but her mind refused to shut down. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flames crawling up the walls of her apartment like living things. By morning, the shock had hardened into something dull and heavy. Reality. Ethan handed her a mug of coffee without asking questions. "Stay as long as you need," he said simply. That kindness almost broke her. 3 days later. It took Lena 3 days to feel human enough to deal with the insurance company. 3 days of borrowed clothes. 3 days of replaying that phone call with her parents. 3 days of wondering how quickly people could decide you were no longer their responsibility. She borrowed Ethan's laptop and dialed the number on her policy. After the usual automated maze, a man finally answered. "Thank you for calling Northstar Mutual. This is Caleb speaking." His voice was calm, professional, Midwest neutral. "Hi," Lena said. "I'm calling to file a claim. My apartment burned down." "I'm very sorry to hear that, Ms. Whitmore," he replied. "Before we proceed, I just need to verify a few details." She gave him her policy number. Keys clicked. Then he paused. "Ms. Whitmore," he said slowly, "can you confirm your relationship to Elaine and Frank Whitmore?" Her fingers tightened around the mug. "They're my mother and stepfather." "Why?" Silence. Not the normal kind. The kind that stretches. "Ms. Whitmore," Caleb said carefully, I think it would be best if you came into our office. Her stomach dropped. Can't you just tell me what's wrong? Another pause. I really think this is something you should see in person. The insurance building smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. Caleb turned out to be younger than she expected. Early 30s maybe, wire-rim glasses and an apologetic expression like he'd already decided he hated his job today. He led her into a small conference room and closed the door. I want to start by saying how sorry I am for your loss, he said. You didn't bring me here for condolences, Lena replied. He nodded and slid a folder across the table. Inside was her policy, her name, her address, her coverage. All normal until the last page. Beneficiary designation. Elaine Whitmore 100%. Frank Whitmore 100%. Lena felt the room tilt. That's a mistake, she said. I never signed that. Caleb turned the page. That's your signature. She stared at it. It looked like hers. The curve of the L. The slant she'd developed in college. The little hook at the end of her name. But she knew, deep in her bones, that she had never signed this document. This change was submitted 6 months ago, Caleb continued quietly. The payout amount is $150,000. Her breath came shallow. Someone forged it, she whispered. Caleb hesitated, then nodded once. There's something else, he said. A fire investigator contacted us this morning. Her pulse spiked. Why would a fire investigator care about my insurance? He met her eyes. Because they don't believe the fire was an accident. They met later that afternoon at a quiet cafe. The man introduced himself as Daniel Cross, fire investigator. Weathered face. Sharp eyes. No wasted words. I'll be direct, he said. Your fire doesn't look accidental. He showed her photos on his phone. Her bedroom. Charred black. The outlet behind her dresser. No electrical fault, he explained. No surge. No faulty wiring. So what does that mean? She asked. It means someone helped the fire start. Her hands trembled around her coffee cup. Daniel leaned forward. I need to ask you something important, Ms. Whitmore. She already knew the question. Who had access to your apartment in the week before the fire? The answer sat heavy in her chest. My mother, Lena said. Daniel didn't react. Just nodded. The building has electronic entry logs, he continued. Only 2 people accessed your unit that week. Her heart pounded. You, he said. And a woman matching your mother's description. The cafe felt suddenly too loud. Too bright. This investigation is active, Daniel added. If there's anything else you remember, anything at all, now is the time. Lena thought of her mother's visit. Unannounced. 3 hours long. That large black bag she'd brought with her. At the time it hadn't seemed strange. Now it felt like a warning she'd ignored. I might remember something, Lena said quietly. Daniel nodded. Good, he replied. Because someone tried very hard to make sure you wouldn't be believed. That night Lena's phone rang. It was her aunt. And her mother had already started telling the family that Lena was losing her mind. Well, she said, maybe take a break from the investigators. Get some rest. Let things cool down. Translation. Stop talking. Stop digging. Stop being believable. After they hung up, Lena stared at her phone. Then she opened the email. It's urgent. We've received an anonymous call expressing concern about your mental state following a recent personal trauma. While we fully support employees during difficult times, we need to schedule a meeting to discuss your current fitness for work. The timestamp showed it had arrived 2 days ago. Lena felt her pulse slow. Not panic. Clarity. Her mother hadn't just protected herself. She'd gone on offense. Ethan found her an hour later, still staring at the screen. She called my job, Lena said calmly. What? He stopped short. She told my family I'm unstable. Now she's telling my employer. Ethan's jaw tightened. That's not concern. That's strategy. Yes, Lena agreed. And she started before I ever said her name out loud. The realization settled heavy but clean. Her mother wasn't reacting. She was preparing. Later that night, Lena replayed the visit. Her mother standing in the doorway, smiling too brightly. The large black bag slung over her shoulder. At the time she'd assumed it was clothes. Maybe gifts. Now she remembered how her mother had wandered. The outlets. The dresser. The bedroom. Daniel asked who had access, Lena murmured. Ethan frowned. Did anyone else have a key? No. Her phone vibrated. A text from Daniel Cross. I pulled the building's hallway footage. We should talk tomorrow. Lena stared at the message, then typed back. I remember something about my mother's visit. She brought a bag. A big one. The reply came almost immediately. That's important. Lena set the phone down. Her hands were steady now. Whatever her mother was planning next, she wasn't hiding anymore. She was escalating. And so was Lena. The next morning, Lena would see the security footage and realize her mother had stayed 3 hours longer than she claimed and left with nothing she came in with. The building manager's office was smaller than Lena expected. Too small for the weight of what she was about to see. A metal desk. 2 mismatched chairs. A computer monitor humming softly in the corner. Daniel Cross stood beside it, arms folded, eyes already serious. This is February 7th, he said. 5 days before the fire. Lena nodded, her throat dry. That's the day my mother visited. Daniel clicked play. 2:07 p.m. The screen flickered to life. There she was. Elaine Whitmore. Same posture. Same walk. Same purse Lena had seen her carry her entire childhood. Over her shoulder hung a large black bag. Bulky and overstuffed. She glanced down the hallway before unlocking the door to Unit 4C. Lena leaned forward. That's her, she whispered. Daniel didn't respond. He didn't need to. 2:38 p.m. Elaine hadn't left. She moved in and out of frame, hallway again, sometimes disappearing entirely. She told me she stayed 30 minutes, Lena said. Daniel clicked ahead. 4:51 p.m. Still inside. Lena's heart began to pound harder. 3 hours, Daniel said quietly. That's not a casual visit. He fast-forwarded again. 5:12 p.m. Elaine exited the apartment. Lena's breath caught. The bag was gone. She watched the footage again. Elaine entered with the bag. Elaine exited without it. Pause it, Lena said. Daniel froze the frame. Elaine stood in the hallway, hands empty. Where did it go? Lena whispered. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled up another camera. Elaine appeared again, walking toward the parking area. Still no bag. She hadn't taken it out another way. She left it inside, Lena said. Yes, Daniel replied. She did. The room felt suddenly too warm. What was in it? Lena asked. Daniel finally met her eyes. That's what we're about to find out. Daniel pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. Melted plastic. Burned wiring. Something small and rectangular. Fire crews found this near the outlet behind your dresser, he explained. We sent it to the lab. Lena stared at the image. What is it? A plug-in digital timer. Her stomach dropped. The kind you use for lamps, Daniel continued. Or space heaters. Set a delay. Walk away. And come back later when everything's gone, Lena said. Daniel nodded. The serial number traces back to a hardware store about 3 miles from your parents' house. Lena closed her eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She felt something else entirely. Confirmation. There's more, Daniel said. He showed her another image. Security footage from a checkout counter. A woman with brown hair stood at the register paying cash. The angle wasn't perfect, but Lena recognized the purse instantly. That's hers, Lena said. She's had that bag since I was a kid. We can't say that officially yet, Daniel replied. But we're close. How close? Lena asked. Daniel checked his watch. Close enough that I've already submitted a warrant request. Lena exhaled slowly. My family thinks I'm losing my mind, she said. Daniel's voice was steady. Then it's a good thing cameras don't have opinions. Lena stepped into the cold air. Phone buzzing in her hand. A text from her mother. We're all worried about you. Please stop talking to people who are confusing you. Lena stared at the message, then deleted it. For the first time since the fire, she smiled. Very slightly. Her mother had made one mistake. She assumed silence meant safety. But cameras never blink. And lies don't survive footage. 2 hours later, Lena's mother called again. This time she didn't sound worried. She sounded afraid. The call came just after sunset. Lena didn't answer it. She watched the phone vibrate on the coffee table, her mother's name glowing on the screen like a warning label. Elaine Whitmore never called twice in a row unless something was wrong. The phone stopped. 30 seconds passed. Then it rang again. Lena picked up. Hello. Oh, thank God. Elaine exhaled, breathless now. Not worried. Not gentle. Tight. I was afraid you wouldn't answer. I'm busy, Lena said calmly. With what? Elaine snapped, then caught herself. I mean, sweetheart, I've been calling everyone. No one knows what to do with you right now. Interesting choice of words. Do with me. Lena repeated. Elaine sighed dramatically. You've been spiraling since the fire. Talking to investigators. Making accusations. Your aunt is beside herself. You called my job, Lena said. Silence. Then carefully. I was trying to protect you. By telling them I'm unstable? By telling them you're grieving? Elaine shot back. There's a difference. No, Lena said softly. There isn't. Elaine's voice hardened. You're embarrassing the family. There it was. You need support, Elaine continued. Real support. Family support. Lena leaned back on the couch. What does that look like to you? Another pause. I'm hosting a small gathering this Sunday, Elaine said. Just family. Nothing overwhelming. A safe place where we can talk. Talk. With witnesses. With everyone? Lena asked. Yes, Elaine said quickly. Your aunts, uncles, cousins. People who love you. People Elaine had already primed. I think it would really help, her mother added. Everyone's worried you're isolating. Lena smiled to herself. Of course. A living room intervention. An audience to watch Lena unravel. A stage where Elaine could be the calm, heartbroken mother and Lena could be the unstable daughter inventing stories to cope with loss. I'll be there, Lena said. Elaine froze. You will. Yes, Lena replied. I think it's time. Relief flooded Elaine's voice too quickly. Too much. That's wonderful, she said. I'll make your favorite. Just come at 2. After they hung up, Lena sat very still. Then she picked up her phone and texted Daniel Cross. She invited me to a family gathering. Sunday. This feels like a setup. His reply came a minute later. Don't confront her. We're close but not there yet. Lena typed back. I won't confront her. But I won't hide either. She made one more call. Rachel. Lena said when the lawyer answered. Let me guess. Rachel Monroe replied dryly. Your mother is suddenly very concerned about your mental health. Yes. Rachel exhaled. Classic. They always try to discredit the witness before the evidence speaks. What should I do? Go, Rachel said without hesitation. Be calm. Say very little. Let her talk. And when? When the time is right, Rachel replied. Truth lands harder when people think they're safe. Lena couldn't sleep. Not from fear. From anticipation. Her mother thought she was walking into a performance. But Lena had seen the script. The cameras. The bag. The timer. Elaine had spent years teaching Lena how to be polite. Quiet. Grateful. She'd never taught her how to survive betrayal. Lena learned that on her own. Sunday would bring 15 family members into one room. Elaine planned to prove Lena was unstable. Lena planned to let the truth arrive instead. The house hadn't changed. White siding. Trimmed hedges. The same wind chimes by the porch that Elaine had bought 20 years ago because they sounded peaceful. Lena parked across the street and sat in the car longer than necessary. 15 vehicles lined the driveway. 15 witnesses. She exhaled once, steady, then stepped out. The front door opened before she knocked. Elaine stood there, already smiling. Lena, she said warmly, wrapping her arms around her daughter just a second too tightly. I'm so glad you came. Her voice carried, loud enough for everyone inside to hear. My poor baby. The living room fell silent. Every conversation stopped as Elaine guided Lena inside, a hand resting possessively at the small of her back. There she is, Elaine announced gently. She's doing her best. Eyes turned, curious. Concerned. Carefully neutral. Lena recognized the look immediately. Assessment. Aunt Claire approached first. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, squeezing Lena's hands. "You look tired." "I am," Lena replied honestly. Uncle Mark nodded from the couch. "Anyone would be after something like that. Trauma changes people," another cousin added, not unkindly. "It messes with your head." Elaine hovered nearby, refilling drinks, nodding at every comment. Planting agreement. Frank stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, phone in hand. He didn't look at Lena. He didn't need to. Elaine waited until everyone had a drink. Until the room was settled. Until attention naturally drifted back to her. She cleared her throat. "I just want to thank you all for coming," she began, voice trembling on cue. "I know this isn't easy." Murmurs of support followed. "As you know," Elaine continued, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, "Lena's been through something terrible. Losing everything like that." She shook her head. "I can't imagine." Lena said nothing. She watched. "But," Elaine went on softly, "what's been hardest is watching her struggle." The word landed carefully. "She's been saying things," Elaine said. "About the fire. About us." The room stiffened. Frank finally looked up. "She thinks we had something to do with it," Elaine whispered, tears now rolling freely. "Her own parents." Gasps. Shocked murmurs. "No," Aunt Claire breathed. "Elaine." "I know," Elaine said quickly. "I know it sounds unbelievable. And I don't blame her. Grief does awful things to the mind." She turned toward Lena, eyes shining with practiced pain. "We love you," she said gently. "But we can't enable delusions." Silence swallowed the room. Every eye moved to Lena, waiting. For denial. For tears. For proof of instability. Lena stayed still. Elaine faltered just slightly. "Lena," she prompted. "Honey." Lena met her mother's eyes. Calm. Clear. Unafraid. "I don't need to defend myself," Lena said evenly. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. "I didn't accuse anyone," she continued. "I answered a question." "What question?" Uncle Mark asked. Elaine's jaw tightened. Lena didn't look away from her mother. "The one about who had access to my apartment before it burned down." Frank shifted. Elaine laughed softly. Too quickly. "See," she said to the room. "This is what I mean. She's fixated." Lena nodded once. "Yes," she said. "On facts." The word hung in the air. Facts. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Once. She didn't look. Elaine pressed forward. "Sweetheart," she said, stepping closer, lowering her voice as if to soothe a frightened animal. "This isn't healthy. You're embarrassing yourself." There it was again. Not worry. Control. Lena finally moved. She reached into her pocket. Her phone buzzed again. This time she glanced at the screen. Daniel Cross. "They're on the way." Lena felt it before anyone else did. The shift. Elaine's voice was still soft, still maternal, but her eyes had changed. They were sharp now. Calculating. Watching Lena's hands, her pockets, her face, looking for weakness. "Lena," Elaine said gently, "why don't you sit down?" "No," Lena replied. The room stilled. She pulled her phone out. Not dramatically, not rushed. Just enough to be seen. "I want to ask you something, Mom." Elaine smiled tight. "Of course, sweetheart." "When you visited my apartment last month," Lena said calmly, "why did you stay for 3 hours?" A few heads turned. Elaine blinked. "What?" "You told me it was 30 minutes. "I don't remember exactly," Elaine said quickly. "Time passes differently when you're—" "The building has cameras," Lena interrupted. Silence. Frank straightened. Aunt Claire frowned. "Cameras?" "Yes," Lena said. "Hallway cameras. Entry logs." Elaine laughed, a brittle sound. "Lena, honey, this is exactly what we were talking about," she said, turning to the room. "She's fixated on details that don't." "You walked in at 2:07 p.m., Lena continued, unflinching. "And you walked out at 5:12. The room erupted in whispers. Elaine's smile faltered. "And the bag," Lena added. "The large black one you carried in." Frank's head snapped toward Elaine. "What bag?" he demanded. Elaine shot him a look-sharp warning. I don't know what she's talking about, Elaine said, her voice harder now. This is inappropriate. You walked in with it, Lena said. And you left without it. Elaine stepped forward. That's enough, she hissed. You are not doing this here. Why not? Lena asked quietly. Because there are witnesses? The word landed like a slap. Elaine's face flushed. Frank's phone buzzed. He glanced down. His face drained of color. Elaine, he whispered. It's the police. The doorbell rang. Once. Sharp. Unavoidable. No one moved. Uncle Mark was closest. He opened the door without thinking. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. Behind them stood Daniel Cross. Badge visible. Expression unreadable. Elaine froze. Elaine Whitmore, Daniel said clearly. You are under arrest for arson and insurance fraud. The room exploded. What? This is insane. Elaine. Elaine's composure shattered. This is her doing, she screamed, pointing at Lena. She's sick. She planned this. Daniel stepped forward and took her arm. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Frank stumbled backward. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he blurted. Elaine whipped her head toward him. Shut up. The handcuffs clicked shut. The sound echoed. Metal. Final. Elaine struggled once, then stopped. For the first time in Lena's life, her mother looked small. As they led her toward the door, Elaine finally turned. Not with love. Not with regret. With rage. This isn't over, she spat. Lena didn't respond. She didn't need to. The truth had already spoken. Outside, sirens faded. Inside, the family stood in stunned silence. And Lena realized the hardest part wasn't proving the truth. It was surviving what came after. No one spoke for a long time after the police cars left. The house felt wrong without Elaine's voice filling it. Too quiet, like a stage after the curtain had fallen. The living room, once arranged for warmth and comfort, now looked artificial. Every framed family photo on the walls felt like a lie exposed too late. Aunt Claire was the first to move. She sank into a chair, hands trembling, covering her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. She did it. Uncle Mark stared at the floor, shaking his head slowly, over and over. I really thought she was protecting you. Lena stood where she was, arms at her sides. Her legs felt steady. Her chest did not. Frank was still near the fireplace, pale and hollow. He looked older now, like someone had drained something essential out of him. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he muttered. Lena turned toward him. What part? She asked quietly. The fire or getting caught? He flinched. I didn't think she'd go through with it, Frank said, voice cracking. She said it was just paperwork. Insurance. That no one would get hurt. No one except me, Lena said. Frank didn't argue. He couldn't. One by one they approached her. Uncle Mark first. I'm sorry, he said gruffly. I should have listened. Aunt Claire followed, tears streaming freely now. She called me so many times. She sounded so convincing. I didn't even think to ask you. That's how it works, Lena replied gently. She gets there first. Claire nodded, ashamed. Cousins stood awkwardly nearby, unsure whether to speak at all. Some murmured apologies. Some avoided eye contact. Not everyone stayed. A few quietly grabbed their coats and left, unable or unwilling to face what they believed. Lena didn't stop them. She stepped out onto the porch alone. The cold air hit her face, sharp and clean. Felt like breathing for the first time in weeks. Her phone buzzed. Rachel Monroe. They're processing her now, Rachel said when Lena answered. Formal charges are coming. Frank's already talking. Lena closed her eyes. Good, she said. Let him. Rachel hesitated. How are you holding up? Lena considered the question. I'm standing, she said finally. That feels like enough. Lena didn't stay long after that. She didn't owe anyone closure. As she walked down the driveway, Aunt Claire called after her. Lena, she said. Whatever you need, we're here. Lena turned back once. I need time, she said. And honesty. If you can't give both, don't offer either. Claire nodded, tears falling silently. Lena walked away. Back at Ethan's apartment, Lena sat by the window and watched the city lights flicker on. She expected to feel victorious. She didn't. What she felt was emptiness. The truth hadn't given her back her home. It hadn't erased the fire. It had just cleared the smoke. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You didn't have to do this." She stared at the screen, then blocked it. 2 days later, Lena would receive a letter. From jail. Written in her mother's handwriting. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. No return name. Just a correctional facility stamp and handwriting Lena recognized instantly. Her mother's. Lena didn't open it right away. She let it sit on the kitchen counter all morning. A quiet accusation folded into an envelope. When she finally did, she used a letter opener. Like distance might dull whatever waited inside. "Lena, I never meant for things to go this far. You have to understand I was desperate. Frank's debts were closing in on us and I panicked. I thought insurance would fix everything. I thought you'd bounce back, you always do. I'm not a monster. I'm your mother. Please come see me. Please let me explain. Love, Mom." Lena read it twice. Then once more. She felt nothing. No anger. No grief. Just clarity. She folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Unanswered. The courtroom was colder than she expected. Elaine sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, hair pulled back, gray finally showing at the roots. She didn't look at Lena when she entered. Frank sat 2 rows ahead, hunched, hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles were white. The charges were read aloud. Arson in the 2nd degree. Insurance fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy. Each word landed with weight. Elaine's lawyer argued desperation. Mental strain. Financial collapse. The prosecutor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He showed the footage. The forged signature. The digital timer. The hardware store receipt. The lie collapsed again, this time permanently. Frank testified next. His voice shook. "It was her idea," he said. "She said Lena had good insurance. Said no one would be hurt." Lena stared straight ahead. No one would be hurt. Elaine stood when the judge spoke her name. She finally looked at Lena then. Not pleading. Calculating. "Elaine Whitmore," the judge said. "You are hereby sentenced to 6 years in state prison, with eligibility for parole after 4. A sound escaped Elaine's throat. Half breath, half disbelief. The gavel struck. Done. Frank received probation, mandatory treatment and community service. His cooperation had saved him from prison. It didn't save his reputation. Outside the courthouse, reporters hovered. Lena ignored them. She sat on the courthouse steps instead, the sun warm against her face. Rachel Monroe joined her. "It's over," Rachel said. Lena nodded. "Yes," she replied. "It is." Lena went home alone. She poured herself a glass of water and stood in the quiet. She thought about the fire. About the letter. About the woman who raised her and the woman she had become. Family, Lena realized, wasn't who shared your blood. It was who refused to spill it. The insurance money cleared the next morning. And Lena had to decide what to rebuild. And what to leave buried in ash. The money came through on a Wednesday morning. $142,000. After fees. After paperwork. After everything that had been burned down and dragged through courtrooms and interrogations. Lena stared at the number on her phone. It didn't feel like a win. Felt like a translation. 7 years of memories converted into digits. She closed the app. The new apartment was smaller. A studio. Quiet neighborhood. Thick locks. A security system she chose herself. No echoes. No ghosts. Ethan helped her move in, setting boxes down gently like the walls might bruise. "Feels different," he said, looking around. "That's the point," Lena replied. She bought a guitar 2 weeks later. Not the same model as the one she lost. Nothing could replace that. But when she played, the notes filled the room softly, and for the first time since the fire, she didn't flinch at the sound. Lena never replied to her mother's letter. She didn't need to. Instead, she filed a restraining order. 10 years. No contact. No intermediaries. Clean. Professional. Final. When the prison tried to forward another letter weeks later, Lena declined delivery. She wasn't cruel. She was done. Dr. Henson asked the question in their 4th session. Do you forgive her? Lena stared at the ceiling. No, she said. And that's okay. Dr. Henson smiled gently. Forgiveness isn't required for healing, she said. Honesty is. Lena nodded. She was done lying to herself. Some relatives drifted away quietly. Others stayed. Aunt Claire called once a week. Not to ask questions, not to explain herself, just to listen. Uncle Mark showed up with groceries one afternoon and said, "You didn't imagine any of it." That mattered. But Lena learned something else too. Family wasn't something you inherited. It was something you chose. One night, Lena wrote a letter she never mailed. Asterisk, you taught me how to be polite. You never taught me how to be safe. I won't hate you, but I won't protect you either. I choose myself. Asterisk. She folded it and placed it in a drawer. Then she closed the drawer. The nightmares faded. Not gone, but quieter. The smell of smoke no longer hijacked her breath. Sirens didn't make her hands shake. Silence stopped feeling dangerous. She slept through the night. Sometimes she stood at her window watching the city lights, thinking about what fire really does. Fire destroys. Everyone knows that. But fire also reveals. It burns away illusions. It shows you exactly what people are willing to sacrifice, and who they're willing to sacrifice it for. Her mother had chosen money. Lena chose freedom. If you're reading this and your family calls you dramatic for telling the truth, if they say you're confused when you're finally clear, if they rush to discredit you before listening, you're not crazy. You're waking up. And waking up hurts. But it also saves you. The fire took Lena's home. It did not take her voice. And that made all the difference.